Homage to the root teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the benevolent lineage masters. The supreme Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered, even in millions of kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, please generate the supreme bodhicitta. Next, let's continue our study of the difficulty of obtaining a precious human life in the words of my perfect teacher. These preliminaries are something everyone truly must put into practice. When we are studying the precious human life, it is important to reflect on each guidance topic again and again, not just once or twice, but repeatedly until the meaning sinks in. Through this contemplation, we should develop a genuine conviction that this human life is extremely rare, especially a human life suited for Dharma practice. In the vast ocean of beings, such a life is as rare as stars in the morning sky, extraordinarily few. We should think to ourselves, this time I have encountered the Dharma. I have met such a master, and I have come to understand what to adopt and what to abandon, what leads toward liberation and what leads away from it. If I do not practice now, then when I die, whether I fall into the lower realms or am reborn among the gods, I will have no opportunity to practice the Dharma as I do now. So in our daily lives, we should always reflect in this way. In the past, eminent masters of the Nyingma, Kagyu, and Kadampa traditions placed great emphasis on the meditation on the precious human life. They always regarded it as a long-term practice. As a result, many senior practitioners went on to show remarkable signs of accomplishment. At the time of their passing into nirvana, they displayed various signs of realization. That is why we need the foundation of the preliminaries today. From the very beginning of my teaching until now, I have emphasized this point over and over, and I will probably keep saying it because repetition matters. After hearing something many times, it gradually begins to leave an impression on the mind. During the lifetime of our precious Guru Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, he taught the words of my perfect teacher almost every year. Because of this, his senior disciples developed a deep, definitive understanding of the Dharma and a genuine faith in it. That quality is quite different from what we see in younger practitioners today. Some of the younger practitioners have never met Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. Some have met him, but stayed by his side for only a very short time. And this is not just a general observation. Such practitioners can be found right here in our institute. When you interact with them in daily life, you can clearly see a real difference in heartfelt faith in the Dharma. The main reason is that when Rinpoche was alive, he placed great emphasis on the foundation of the preliminaries. Many Dharma teachers and practitioners, as well as lay people, have put considerable time and effort into this particular practice. As a result, they have actually grasped it. Of course, such realization cannot simply arise in one's mind out of nowhere. It is quite difficult, especially for beings in this degenerate age. Just consider what we have done with our body, speech, and mind. You could say that from childhood until now, we have committed many negative actions, and that is just this lifetime, not to mention all the lifetimes stretching back through beginningless time. And our minds have been entangled with the 5 poisons for far too long: attachment, anger, ignorance, pride, and jealousy. To immediately change our old habits and dispositions is very difficult. We occasionally reflect on some Dharma teaching, or receive the Guru's blessings, or listen to some instruction. But it is very unlikely that a sudden, total transformation will occur right away. In fact, the mind of an ordinary being can only be transformed step by step. There is no such thing as instant results, except in rare cases. Historically, this did happen in some Tibetan Buddhist monasteries, in Chinese Chan monasteries, and among certain great accomplished masters in India, in their previous lives, they had accumulated very deep karmic ties to the path of liberation. When they met a guru with whom they had a deep karmic connection, just a brief pointer was enough. They realized the nature of mind right then and there. Such cases do exist. We do not deny it. There are indeed people who, through their own hard work, have quickly gained some experience or realization. But for most people, one still needs to put in the effort oneself. I hope that every fellow practitioner, whether lay or monastic, will put real effort into practice and will keep increasing that effort. To put it in everyday terms, we need to increase the intensity of our practice. Practice with diligence and courage. Increase the intensity and extend the duration as much as possible. For example, whether you are at the institute, at a proper Buddhist college, or in an established Buddhist community, the longer you stay, the better. Otherwise, if some people study for only a year, a month, or a few days, is it possible for that to suddenly transform your entire mind stream? Extremely difficult. It is like trying to climb to the heavens. That is how difficult it is. So now we have the precious opportunity to practice the preliminaries. Every time I am about to teach the words of my perfect teacher, I feel joyous in my heart because this Dharma is so precious. These are the profound teachings of our lineage. Even though my own practice is not the greatest, in this degenerate age, I still have great faith in the Dharma. And this is not just lip service. Speaking from the heart, the whole first half of my life, all my time and all my energy, I have devoted entirely to this practice. So I have great faith in it. Fellow practitioners, through your own exchanges with one another, perhaps a few of you will also come to understand this Dharma. Indeed, many people today have a strong yearning for liberation and for the pursuit of genuine truth. Many pursue it with great interest and enthusiasm. Even if it brings just a little benefit, that little benefit is already worthwhile, and we are willing to give it every ounce of strength we have. I hope that fellow practitioners will make this aspiration from the heart. I will do my best, for as long as I live, to listen, contemplate, and practice the Dharma, listening, reflecting, and practicing benefit sentient beings, and they benefit oneself as well. In short, those of us learning and practicing now should focus on taming our own mind stream and helping sentient beings. The aspiration we made a few days ago was in this very spirit. Whether in this life or in future lives, I will spend my days listening, contemplating, and practicing, taming my own mind stream, and then benefiting sentient beings through the Dharma. Now, does that mean I take no joy in anything else? When I come across good food, do I feel happy? Of course I do. I am an ordinary person. If there is a delicious dish today, I will certainly be pleased. And if someone gives me a beautiful piece of clothing, would I feel happy? Of course I would, and I would put it on right away. Some fellow practitioners are the same. After they put it on, they ask, do I look good? Ordinary people all have this tendency. But is that my ultimate goal? Definitely not. It is like children at play. In reality, our lives are full of performances we act out. And a few decades from now, it will all be an illusion. In today's world, people are especially attached to money, to status, to so many things. But look back on your life a few decades from now, and you will see it all differently. None of it is lasting. None of it holds any real substance. So fellow practitioners here should hold a clear goal of their own. Without a goal, a person has nothing but eating, drinking, and amusement, caring about nothing else. And that is not right. When we look at certain animals, they are indeed pitiful. Apart from eating and sleeping, they have no goal at all. But we humans should not live like that. So I hope everyone will take the preliminaries to heart. because our requirement is that you practice every day. For now, even though the weather is a bit frosty, it is not really that cold, is it? What is it now? Is it minus 20 degrees? Around that number, right? Yes, a little over minus 20 degrees. And that is not very cold either, relatively speaking. Consider Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, who long ago studied in Sershul. It was truly cold there. We once went to Sershul. It was summer at the time, yet the weather there was freezing and the cold felt piercing. Even at the Institute, I had never felt anything like it. Even when it gets cold, the temperature is just as I told you a moment ago. When we first began our studies at the Institute, the conditions back then were very different from the conditions you have now for receiving the teachings. Every morning at 7 or 8 o'clock, I remember tutoring them in my own courtyard. During the tutoring, each fellow practitioner sat on the ground, and the ground was completely frozen, and every one of them was wearing very thin clothes. I saw how thin they were. In those days, it was called my courtyard, but it was nothing special, merely a relatively flat patch of ground. On that spot, we would study until about 10 o'clock, and around 10 o'clock, the sun would come out. Then we continued with the second lesson and the third lesson. This went on all morning until noon, and at noon, we had our meal. In those days, we would get up around 5 or 6 in the morning. When we got up, we boiled tea and poured it into a thermos. In the morning, we ate a little tsampa. The thermos was filled to the brim. At midday, we would eat a little tsampa and drink half the tea. We never made a fire. We simply left things as they were. Because in the afternoon, at around 1 or 2 o'clock, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche would teach the Dharma every day. And it was like this for many years. Sometimes when I think back on it now, my heart feels quite empty. Because even though we listened to the Dharma for so many years, sometimes I feel that in this life, we will never go back to living the life we had before. In the afternoon, after Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche had finished teaching, we would go to the courtyard ourselves to tutor the students. Sometimes, after Rinpoche had finished teaching, he would joke around with the practitioners, and we would spend a long time with him. In the afternoon, there would usually be some more lessons to teach. By the evening, the thermos was only half filled, since we had already drunk the other half at midday. So whatever remained, we drank in the evening. We usually only boiled water once a day. This kind of life did strengthen my faith in the Dharma. Sometimes I feel that nowadays some fellow practitioners here live in rather challenging circumstances. Yet those very difficulties can be a great aid to our practice. Otherwise, whether in the city or here in the mountains, when the conditions for practice are too comfortable and cozy, it may actually have a negative effect on us. But the way we are able to study the Dharma now is only a rare occurrence. It is hard to say whether it will be maintained into the future. So now I hope that since Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche has given us an abundance of teachings, we should take them seriously from now on, and in our hearts develop a real joy toward the Dharma. If the weather is a bit cold, or you feel a little unwell, or family members say this or that, there is no need to pay them any mind. Devote your mind completely to the Dharma. Because the Dharma can only be received by a mind that is pure and at peace, think of wiping a mirror until it is spotless. If there is no dirt or dust on it, every image from the external world appears perfectly without missing a thing. But if the mirror is already covered with scruff, the external world cannot reflect in it. The Dharma is by nature very profound, and because it is so profound, we must listen with great focus, relying on our faith and reverence, and it is best to do this over a long time. Do not think, I have already studied for a year, or I have studied so much already. Do not complain that everything here falls short in this way and that way. Sometimes, if we set very high demands for our food and clothing, then we become purely worldly people, not practitioners seeking liberation. So everyone should take this very seriously. Whether or not this is directly related to the Dharma teaching, I thought I should mention this now. Even though the winter weather here is rather cold, do not lose faith. Our faith in the Dharma must indeed be sturdy. If it is not sturdy, you will not gain the genuine meaning of the Dharma. And once you have gained that genuine meaning, you will not fall back from it for the rest of your life. If you have not received the true benefit of the Dharma, that is to say, if your mind has not been genuinely transformed, then it does not matter how much you have studied and contemplated on the surface. You are only temporarily living among Buddhists. And when you later encounter other outer circumstances and objects, at that moment, you will change right away. Next, let us discuss the actual meaning of the text. Today we are discussing the third part, the advantage of complete faculties. Among the 5 individual advantages, we have finished the second, the advantage of place. The third is the advantage of complete faculties. If one lacks any one of the 5 faculties, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, one cannot become a suitable vessel for renunciation and for keeping the vows. Without them, one has no chance to behold and venerate objects worthy of reverence, such as the images of the Tathagatas, nor the connection needed to read, hear, or contemplate the wish-fulfilling jewel of the scriptures. So one cannot serve as a true vessel of the Dharma. The third advantage, complete faculties, means that to study the Dharma, one must have all the faculties intact. Here, the mental faculty is not discussed. What is mainly meant are the other 5 physical faculties: the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. If any one of these faculties is incomplete, one cannot become a monastic. One cannot receive the lay precepts, nor can one receive the Dharma in full. None of this is permitted. Why? Anyone who has been ordained knows that at ordination the faculties must be complete. Otherwise, one does not even have the right to enter the sangha. Buddha Shakyamuni set this rule at the time. For example, take a person with a disability. On the one hand, followers of other paths and some non-Buddhists would criticize and disparage such a person in all kinds of ways and would lose faith as a result. And on the other hand, the person himself has no way to receive and benefit from the Buddhist teachings fully. So it is not that the Buddha lacked compassion for those who are deaf or unable to speak and refused to take them in. It is not like that. But actually letting such a person enter the monastic community is like the situation of worldly people today. If you really want to sit an examination to become a civil servant or a teacher, first they examine whether your intelligence passes the standard. If your intelligence is fine, then it depends on whether you pass the interview. After the interview comes a medical examination, and that can be quite a bother. Many of you have probably had one. So in many respects, if your eyes do not work, if your ears do not work, if your nose does not work, is that checked as part of the health assessments? Nowadays, examining the nose and tongue, the sense of smell and the sense of taste. The ability to test them on medical instruments is not as common as the other faculties. Also, beings suffer relatively few illnesses of these senses. So today, many examinations mainly look at your hearing and your eyesight. During a medical examination, do they check whether the nose is intact? Whether the tongue is intact? Is that examined? Probably not. So if your eye faculty is incomplete and you are completely blind, then it's next to impossible to look at an image of the Buddha, to look at the Guru, in order to visualize them in your meditation, to read the scriptures and treatises, and to engage in your daily listening, contemplation, and practice. We see some blind people who are indeed in a difficult situation, needing external support to take care of them in their daily lives. Nowadays, there are some schools for the blind or vocational schools for masseuses, and the state also finds various paths forward for them. Yet simply taking care of their own daily lives is extremely difficult for them. Sometimes, when we see blind people, we also think, I should be grateful for my sight. To live an entire lifetime this way is genuinely hard. They cannot tell whether it is day or night. They cannot see whether someone is a loved one or an enemy. They cannot see white, and they cannot see red. Such a life is immensely hard. Not to mention learning the Dharma. Even basic self-care in ordinary life is immensely difficult for them. In the same way, if our ear faculty is incomplete and we become deaf, then listening to any lineage transmission, whether the Guru's teaching or the pith instructions, is impossible. The very listening of listening and contemplation is out of reach. However the Guru speaks, it is no use. You cannot hear the Buddha's name. No meaningful sound can reach you. Even worldly singing and speaking must all be conveyed through gestures. Some deaf people have learned to read the shape of your mouth. I remember there was once a deaf person among us. When we were very young, there was an old lama, and we would tease him on purpose, calling out to him beside him, "Ah, ah." We would say to him, "Are you well?" And he would say, "Well, I am going to kill you." And then he would say, "Good." We were very naughty as children, and sometimes we would tease him. Sometimes I would see whether he could actually catch on. I would loudly say, "I am going to kill you." And he would say, "Good, good, good." It was quite bad. So we feel that if we were reborn as such a deaf person, we too would have to face many adversities. Then there are those whose body faculty is incomplete. In the world now, there are many people in a vegetative state or paralyzed, whose bodies are completely bedridden. And such a person can have no sense of touch at all in parts of the body. Those parts stay numb and unresponsive, and there are such cases. Only the heart is beating and the breath continues, but the mind, his consciousness, has no normal activity. Earlier in the United States, around 2005, there was a person whose case caused a stir among people across the world. There was a woman named Terri who had fallen into a vegetative state with no sensation. There was a special tube, and food was passed through the tube into her body. At the time she was, I think, 41 years old. Her husband filed a lawsuit because after so long a time, it would be best to let her die peacefully and not keep feeding her constantly. Her parents would not agree. He twice pulled out the tube, but the parents would not agree. Later, this matter was being discussed by many internationally famous figures, whether it was better for this person to die or to stay alive, because living like this, for 15 years, she had no sensation at all every day. Her whole body simply had no sharp or acute pain or pleasure, nothing at all. For such a person, her husband's view was that it would be best to let her die, but her parents firmly refused. After all, she is their child, and every day she lives is a day gained, and so they kept feeding her. But later the court took the side of the husband, and it seems even President Bush became involved in the matter. This matter dragged on for a long time, but in the end they finally settled. The tube was pulled out, and she died within 13 days. For an ordinary person, if no food enters the body, death comes within 7 days. But she lasted 13. On this topic, even afterwards, some Christians and some religious people all felt that no matter what, she was still alive, and her lifespan should be prolonged. No matter how many years she has left in this world, it is worth living on. But another group, people who do not follow any religion, felt it would be best to let her leave a bit earlier. Otherwise, she becomes a burden to the family. And there is no need for her to go on existing like this. Sometimes we do end up with this line of thinking. We hope that before we die, we do not end up in a vegetative state. Otherwise, when it gets to that point, it becomes very hard for the family, for relatives and friends, and for oneself. Living is worse than dying. If deep down one still has some awareness, one might think, what meaning or worth is there in living on like this? At such a time, one might not even have a single thought of faith in the three jewels. The origins of such paralysis are also varied. Some may be a congenital illness, some a sudden car accident, or natural disasters like earthquakes. This time in the Wenchuan earthquake, I heard some people were left disabled like this as well. Some lost sensation in half the body, some in the entire lower body. A Tibetan I know also had a car accident some time ago. It seems his spine was damaged. His whole lower body has no sensation at all, yet his upper body is exactly like a normal person's. Moreover, his responses and thinking are still clear in every way. So reflect on this. Sometimes, when we imagine such an illness falling on ourselves, it is deeply pitiful. It is not like before, when everything was completely normal and you could go wherever you wished and do whatever you wished, entirely free. In fact, sometimes we should think this way. Some people feel, I am sick, I am in such pain, but in fact, it is no great suffering at all. We have functioning eyes, we have ears, we have a body, and we can go anywhere we wish. If you actually lost your eyes, only then would you think, how happy, how bright a world it was to live in when I had sight before I went blind. Perhaps you would feel that way once the body is paralyzed. Perhaps you would feel, it was so happy when I was not paralyzed. Perhaps you would reflect in that way. So in the matter of touch and sight, there are especially many pitiful people in the world today, but fortunately we have not become like this. Then there is the sense of smell mentioned just now. Although modern medicine has not been entirely successful in judging and researching these areas, more and more people in the world are developing such conditions. For example, there is now a condition called loss of taste, the ailment of losing one's sense of taste. It is said that in England, the number of people with this condition is fairly high. There was a British university student who, after developing this condition, had no taste at all for many foods. For example, for him, braised pork ribs tasted exactly the same as mushy potatoes, no sensation at all, and plain water and salt water were the same too. He could not taste any of it. There is also, over in America, a condition called taste disorder. In this ailment, taste and smell are mixed together into one. For example, rice and other foods are exactly the same. Milk and beer are exactly the same. He has no sensation of them. In truth, the sense of smell covers more, while taste is only sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and so on. In the treasury of Abhidharma, 6 kinds are taught. So in many places, these two senses, the nose faculty and the tongue faculty, work together to experience food. But many young people are quite sensitive to flavor, to what the sense of smell and the sense of taste perceive in food. Generally, once a person reaches 60, and especially past 80, modern medicine holds that basically 3/4 of the elderly can no longer taste anything. Many of the elderly people here are probably like this too. When you were young, you can tell this was tasty and that was tasty. Now, after you eat, your teeth are gone, and it is the same on the tongue. As people in Sichuan say, as long as it is soft and nothing too hard, it feels fine to you. So many people now, if they reach the point of feeling nothing at all, for example, eating sugar and eating dirt would taste exactly the same. And if we came down with this ailment, it would be very pitiful. At that point, does it affect the study of the Dharma? It should be said that it does. But it is probably not the same as with the ear faculty and eye faculty. With the ear faculty and eye faculty, one cannot receive the transmission of the Dharma at all. If the nose faculty and tongue faculty are damaged, it should be said that this affects your whole practice. One cannot fully master or receive the teachings. So there are many things here for us to consider. My own faculties are working normally. I am not especially clever. I cannot recite everything from memory or hold every scripture and treatise perfectly in mind. I am nothing like that. But at least my faculties are complete. And most of the monastics and lay practitioners here have no major impairment of this kind either. One should feel comforted by this and be glad. This is the blessing of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Now that I have such a body, I must practice diligently. You could say that, on the one hand. In this whole ocean of suffering, sentient beings are very pitiful. But as a great fortune within misfortune, our conditions and circumstances now are extremely excellent and complete in every way. We should encourage ourselves to practice the genuine Dharma. This concludes the advantage of complete faculties. Then comes the advantage of intention. The conflicting livelihood mainly refers to being born in this world into a caste such as hunters or those in prostitution, and from childhood entering the path of a conflicting livelihood. The real conflicting livelihood here is like the caste divisions in the Brahmanism of India. If from childhood one is a butcher, one remains so forever, and one's children and grandchildren all carry on this same trade. It is the same if one belongs to a king's caste or a merchant's caste, but if one is indeed reborn into a caste like that of butchers, or the caste of those in prostitution, or a caste that is quite lowly in society, then generation after generation one may keep doing such degrading work. This is what is called an actual conflicting livelihood. Here, in the term conflicting livelihood, the karma itself has been turned upside down, set in conflict with virtuous karma. Originally, you want to move in a good direction, but there is no way. Your own karmic force has already turned things upside down. The people nowadays we sometimes see in the market are slaughtering chickens, sheep, pigs, and cattle day after day. Such butchers are indeed pitiful. Some of them speak of a certain butcher. In Chongqing there is one surnamed Li, and they call him Swift Knife Little Li. And in the past, many books said this man was rather remarkable. Why remarkable? On a good day he could kill 200 chickens, and his movements were extremely fast. It seems he earned 2 yuan for every chicken he killed, and they were very proud of themselves. His family too would say, "We are very capable, very skilled at making money." Such people regard doing negative actions as a kind of skill. It is quite pitiful. This includes many slaughterhouses now, where these people slaughter cattle and sheep every single day of their lives. Back when I was doing life release, I also interviewed some butchers. They said, on a busy day, several of us together can slaughter up to 400 yaks at one meatpacking plant. From morning on, without a break, they would hack at the yaks' necks with their knives. When we think about it, it is extremely cruel. Sometimes I think, although we are among the ranks of practitioners, not very diligent, not very successful practitioners, still we are all right. Are we not? At least we do not do such work every day. If we did, imagine what it would be like. There was once a monastic I knew well. He said, "Although I am ordained, I am very lazy and full of shame, but the thing that makes me happiest is that I am ordained. If I had not been ordained, then by the custom of my homeland, I might well have killed a great amount of yaks by now." Because generally, some Tibetan lay people still cannot avoid killing yaks at home, just as in Han areas some households also kill chickens and fish. And this kind of thing is fairly common, especially in families that do not follow Buddhism. But many of us now already understand what to adopt and what to reject, and we have not been reborn into such ranks, into some especially difficult walks of life. This is what is called a conflicting livelihood. But the text says here that, in fact, any action of the 3 doors that runs counter to the genuine Dharma belongs to conflicting livelihood. That is a demanding standard. If everything our body, speech, and mind do that goes against the Dharma counts as conflicting livelihood, then would everyone sitting here be a person of conflicting livelihood? At times we too act against the Dharma with body, speech, and mind, but as I understand it, what the text means is that body, speech, and mind engage solely in negative actions, as with those in prostitution or with butchers. who have no virtuous practice at all. In their minds, what they think about all day is committing negative actions. What their mouths say has not a trace of virtue, and what their bodies do is likewise. Such conduct is a real conflicting livelihood. In fact, ordinarily, the conflicting livelihood spoken of in many gurus' teachings refers to someone who used to be a monastic, but has returned to lay life and in the end commits all kinds of negative actions. Or someone who used to be a very devout lay practitioner but later takes up a non-Buddhist path and stops studying the Dharma, giving up their former practice. This is what is called a person of conflicting livelihood. Many gurus often tell their disciples, "You absolutely must never become a person of conflicting livelihood." What they mean is, do not return to lay life. Do not listen to countless teachings before me today. And then tomorrow, throw it all to the back of your mind and go off casually into other indecent places to commit all sorts of misdeeds. This is what is called a conflicting livelihood. Fellow practitioners here, we too rely on the blessings of the Guru and the three jewels. Now we truly have the opportunity to receive the Dharma. This opportunity is a fruit of the virtuous actions we accumulated over millions of eons in the past. At the same time, once the many causes and conditions of this life have come together, we are now like the saying about a blind man who happens to grab hold of an elephant's tail. We cannot let go and must practice virtue from now on. Wherever you go, you must not forget this. As the old saying goes, no matter which post I am assigned to, I will never forget my own dear mother. There is a song that says so. So no matter which ranks we join, or which Dharma center, or whatever place we go to, our one aim is this. We would rather cast away our own precious life than cast away the precious Dharma and the essential work of benefiting sentient beings. This is a resolve that everyone should form from the heart. Otherwise, the karmic force of each sentient being is different. Today, although so many people are gathered together in one place like this, 2 years from now, perhaps many will have gone their own way. It is all impermanent. Some time ago, I looked at a photograph of a few of us together with our precious guru, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, taken in Bodh Gaya, India. Many of the people in it have already left this world. There was one at that time called Khenpo Chwepa, who has passed away. Another one called Tulku Palnor, who has also passed away. And also there was another old Lama who is no longer with us. Looking at the photo, those still alive in this human world are now a minority. In a few more years, some of us too may soon go. Impermanence is just like this. No being and no thing escapes it. So to those of you present, I feel that if everyone holds such a resolve in their heart, then wherever you go, your virtuous heart and the light of your wisdom can shine forth at any time. Shining forth such light, the darkness around you will surely be cleared away and be dispelled. This is the strength and the might of the Dharma. So we should strive not to become a person of conflicting livelihood. We should often supplicate before the Guru and the three jewels, even if you offer just one lamp or light a single stick of incense and prostrate before the Buddha. At that moment, you can pray. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless my mind stream at every moment. May I, from this life onward and throughout all my lives to come, never turn into a person of conflicting livelihood. In this way, life after life, I will practice virtue and benefit sentient beings. The power of making such an aspiration in your heart is tremendously strong. If everyone keeps this up in their hearts, then once the mind is tamed, body and speech become easier to tame. The key point is our mind. The mind should constantly make aspirations and constantly be made gentle and workable. Then body and speech are its servants, and all is well. To give an analogy, at work, as long as you have set right your relationship with the chairman of the board, the project managers of the various departments below are easily won over. The text also says that although at first we were not reborn into a caste of conflicting livelihood, it is nonetheless very easy to turn into a person of conflicting livelihood in the future. Therefore, we must do our utmost to keep our mind stream from running contrary to the genuine Dharma. When Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche taught this in the past, he also stressed this point with special emphasis. We now all rely on the blessings of the Guru and the three jewels and gain a temporary capacity for a virtuous mind, where we behave properly, in accordance with the Dharma. And when we listen to the Dharma, it's almost as if we look more dignified than Maitreya. And for a short while, we become extremely diligent. But the truth is that the pull of outer circumstances is especially strong, and the power of our mind is extremely weak. When all sorts of outer conditions appear before you, your capacity to withstand them is extremely small. And once all these causes and conditions come together, it is quite possible that, though today I wear the very dignified robes of a monastic, a few years from now even my own survival becomes a problem. I might even reject cause and effect across the three lives and become an especially frightful lay person. It is hard to say. So in this world, sometimes a good person can turn into a harmful person very quickly, and a harmful person can turn into a good person equally quickly. So it is quite possible that, after a while, all of us may undergo change. For example, a monastic who is very diligent, could he turn into a butcher, a prostitute? Could this happen? It is hard to say. If we ourselves have not supplicated well and have not made firm aspirations, it is hard to say. So in the future, you must not turn into a person of conflicting livelihood. To keep from becoming such a person, on the one hand, as I said just now, you shouldn't be apart from the community of practitioners for a very long time. This is a very good safeguard, giving yourself an object before which to feel a sense of shame. For example, if you are a monastic, stay frequently in the monastery, amongst the pure and dignified sangha of monastics, and do not be apart from them. If a monastic spends a long time in contact with lay people alone, and often is away from their monastic community, then little by little, in the end, they can easily slip back into being a lay person. As for lay Buddhist communities, it is best to be with like-minded lay practitioners, communities that share a common aspiration to listen, contemplate, and practice, that release animals together, study together, and practice together. Try your best not to leave such a community. Otherwise, when the time comes, it is like fishing a needle from the sea, and no one may be able to save you, because society now is very chaotic, and across the whole earth. What is it that keeps people bustling and busy day and night? It is worldly trifles. Apart from that, those who truly seek liberation are, you could say, extremely few, very rare, as scarce as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. So first of all, we should try our best not to leave a very pure practice community. At the same time, as I just said, we should often supplicate the Guru and the three jewels. Next, let us discuss the advantage of faith. The advantage of faith is like this. If one has no faith in the proper object of faith, the Dharma, then no matter how devoutly one venerates other powerful worldly beings, such as the mighty gods and Nagas, or how devoutly one follows non-Buddhist paths, however devout that veneration and belief may be, they still cannot rescue you from the suffering of samsara and the lower realms. This is very important. The object in which we should place our faith is the Guru and the three jewels. The Guru and the three jewels are the object of our faith. If we do not place our faith in them, then whatever faith we place in a non-Buddhist path is meaningless. The true object of faith is the three jewels, which possess unsurpassed qualities. Faith in them is indeed very important. I remember, in the past, when Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche went to Malaysia, there was a karma center called the Malacca Karma Center. At that time, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche gave them very sublime teachings. I remember he spoke of 3 points. For a person who studies and practices the Dharma, one must possess these 3: faith, compassion, and wisdom. If faith is lacking, there is no way to enter the Dharma. There are so many people in the world, yet many of them do not have faith and do not enter the Dharma. And if one lacks wisdom, then out in the world, especially now, in this age of rapidly advancing technology. There is all kinds of intricately complex information accessible everywhere, constantly vying for our attention. And from it, one has no way at all to discern what to adopt and what to reject. So wisdom must be present. And if compassion is lacking, then toward the boundless sentient beings of the world, we should give rise to a compassionate heart. If we do not have such an outlook, there is no way for us to join the ranks of the Mahayana. So through these 3 points, to the faithful followers who had a connection with him, he gave a very sublime teaching. Later, when I was alone, I reflected on it as well. Gurus who have experience and realization in the Dharma, in what seems on the surface a very simple thing, can tell us that we practitioners need to possess these 3 traits. But in reality, if one does not have these 3, then becoming a practitioner worthy of the name is quite difficult. That is why Mipham Rinpoche said in the past, faith is the root of the Dharma. Faith can increase the accumulation of merit. Faith is the root of the Dharma. And by relying on faith, one can increase one's accumulation of merit. Only with faith is there a chance to attain enlightenment. For many sentient beings, lacking faith can indeed make things very difficult. Because now, many intellectuals, many people of high education, spend every day in painstaking study, wishing to research Buddhism. I recall the Avatamsaka Sutra also has this stanza. Sentient beings of small faith find it hard to know enlightenment. Everyone should remember this verse. Beings who have no faith, or only very slight faith, may on the surface look extremely clever, racking their brains, toiling away all day long, studying day and night. But in truth, what profound depth of Buddhism they gain in the end is hard to say. Whereas if there is faith, by relying on one's own faith and one's own diligence, one can gain great benefit within one's own mind stream. Sometimes lay people or monastics here with fairly great faith can, in a very short time, resolve what you might call the great matter of a whole lifetime. Now, worldly people, for example, some elderly people, worry whether their son or daughter has settled the great matter of life. I would think the great matter of life means liberation, would it not? But no, it turns out they mean something else like getting married. So we must recognize how rare it is to encounter such Dharma, and we must have faith. And if you want to have faith, the best method is first to understand its beneficial qualities. If you do not know its beneficial qualities, then your faith may become only a surface-level belief. So we should understand that however much a non-Buddhist path may flourish, for example, Taoism has its own teachings and others have all kinds of great immortals, the 8 classes of gods and nagas and various ways of venerating them, yet these celestial deities are themselves still sunk in samsara. They have not yet passed beyond the ocean of suffering, so how could they help resolve our plight? Absolutely not. If we want to resolve the cycle of birth and death that is found in no other religion, temporary practice of virtue, doing some good deeds, such conduct and views like that they do have. But if we wish to pass beyond samsara and attain liberation, the marvelous medicine for that is found solely in the teaching of Buddha Shakyamuni. So toward the Dharma of scripture and of realization, we should have a sincere, unwavering faith. Only by experiencing the Tathagata's Dharma of scripture and of realization with its reasoned, well-grounded characteristics, and thereby gaining understanding and faith, does one become an unerring vessel of the Dharma. So through many approaches, we should hold a very firm, stable faith in the Tathagata's Dharma of scripture and of realization. Only in this way can one become a true vessel of the Dharma. Among the 5 individual advantages, reflect on this again and again. To have encountered the Dharma, and especially to have faith in Buddhism, is indeed very rare and precious. Shantideva also said, if one meets a Buddha appearing in the world, and as a human has faith in the Dharma, this rare fitness to practice virtue, on what day will one gain it again? What this means is that now we have already encountered the Dharma, and then come to have faith in it, and can still practice virtue. Such joy, such an opportunity is very rare among people. Whether we will attain it again and again in the future is hard to say. We tend to think, on the surface, that many fellow practitioners may have come to faith in Buddhism through some chance opportunity. In fact, it is not so. Many people think it is a chance occurrence, but I do not accept that belief. It should be because we have done a great many virtuous deeds, and only so can we study the Dharma in this life. But now we must seize this opportunity. Toward the Tathagata's Dharma of scripture and of realization, we should give rise to an uncommon faith. And this faith must be as sturdy as the king of the mountains. We ourselves should practice such virtuous conduct. And then, with all our might, do our utmost to help sentient beings understand it too. In short, we practice virtue ourselves and lead sentient beings to do so as well. This practice is not only the duty of us monastics. As lay Buddhist followers, one should also carry it out as well. The omniscient Longchenpa also said, "Practice as firm as the king of mountain, bearing the victory banner mark of those sages." Whether lay or monastic, this is a person of the precious human life. I think everyone must make an effort to remember this line. What does it mean? We should engage in this conduct of practicing for both self and others. And this conduct is not like when today I generate bodhicitta nicely and help others, and then 2 days later I begin writing a letter of resignation, immediately losing faith, or ceasing to practice, or being unable to arouse the intention. Such a person is not like the king of mountains. That sort of conduct is as unsettled as a water wheel or a mountain banner. Like a windhorse banner planted on a mountain that flutters whichever way the wind blows, it should not be so. It should be like the king of mountains. Then such a person, though on the surface he does not wear the garb of a sage and does not wear the Dharma robes, even if he is a lay person, because in his heart he sincerely wishes to practice well and to help others, one who has such a heart, then whatever his outward form, whether lay person or monastic, in reality he has obtained the precious human life. The human life of freedoms and advantages we are discussing here must indeed be a precious human life that has all the complete ideal conditions. So such a human life is indeed very difficult to obtain. Therefore, when we study the Dharma, taming our own mind and helping others is extremely important. At the same time, we should give rise to an unshakable faith in the Tathagata's Dharma. An unshakable faith. It is not because everyone says the Dharma is so sublime, I will just follow along and study it. It is not like that. Each of you should examine yourself. We have studied for so many years now. Suppose, for example, a follower of another path says how good and how fine his path is, and then a Buddhist within our tradition says how good and how fine his Buddhism is. If that follower of another path has a particularly clever tongue, will your mind waver, thinking, perhaps the Kapila school, an ancient Indian philosophical tradition, really is sublime. Perhaps Taoism is good, I will give up studying Buddhism and follow them instead. That shows that in your mind you have no very firm conviction. If in your mind you have a deeply rooted view, then even if thousands upon thousands of people come to promote their path, your mind absolutely will not be shaken. That is why the praise of the Buddha also says, I do not praise the Buddha's side out of partiality to Buddhism, nor do I resent the Kapila school and the like. Whoever speaks with correct reasoning, him I take as my guide. I feel that each one of us, if we are honest, is not that because the Buddha has a good relationship with me, I will revere the Buddha. And because the Kapila school and the non-Buddhist paths have a bad relationship with me, I will resent them. We should not adopt or reject things from this deliberate division of self and others out of our own feelings of attachment and aversion. It is not like that at all. It should be like, I want to know who possesses the real ultimate and conventional truth of the universe and of life, and who can express it completely. In this world, who is the one who is absolutely true? Then I take refuge in him. Through my own wisdom and through the analysis of many lines of reasoning, in the end, I come to know Now, among all the boundless, countless bodies of learning and teachers, my one and only refuge is the Buddha. And what is the reason? Because he has proclaimed the truth of the world. If I take refuge in him alone, then in this life, in future lives, and throughout all my lives to come, he will never deceive me. There will be nothing that leads me astray. So now I feel completely at ease. It is like a worker who wants to find an employer. He searches everywhere, and at last, this person is 100% a decent person, and you feel reassured to be employed by them. You will not worry, will I be deceived here after a while? You will not think like that. So through your own effort and the teachings of the gurus, you have found that the Buddha is the finest in all the world. Such faith is a faith that lies within your very marrow. It is not on the surface like the skin. If it were on the skin, you rub something on today and it is gone at once. It could be wiped off in a moment. But what is in your marrow will not change. So when each person has such faith, whether it is faith in the difficulty of gaining a human life or faith in the Buddha, only then do they count as a real Buddhist and a worthy vessel of the Dharma. So among the 5 individual advantages, faith is the root. With faith, everything else is manageable. Without faith, it is as if we wanted to enter a house, but the door had not been opened. There would be no way to enjoy any of the things inside. So everyone should strengthen their faith. Having encountered such Dharma, we should give rise to joy. In a little while, once class is over, when each of you goes home, do a happy dance. All right? We will stop here.
Sonam dei tanche thogaya tonne de jana pase jirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen dra dra
Bandara Badma Sadarda Bandara Badma Sadarda Bandara Badma Sadarda